Welcome to our news and thanks for joining us. I'm Christina Dragovich. Two men are tonight being questioned by police in connection with the deadly shooting of 4-year-old Kenton Seymour Jr. We're following this and we'll have more in a moment. But first, the nation's leader outlining his government's priorities for the remainder of the year. Tackling inflation and bringing relief to residents making the top of the list. The PM also reveals what won't come by year's end. Bethany McDermott picks up the story from here.
Bringing gender equality to citizenship laws is in one of the government's priority items for the second half of 2022. That's according to Prime Minister Philip Davis. Back in April, Attorney General Ryan Pinder said government intended to introduce legislation that would allow Bahamian men and women to pass on citizenship under any circumstances. When asked if those laws could come by the end of the year, Davis had this to say.
I won't raise my expectations for that for the end of the year. Those things are under review, but they're not a priority right now. Priority for me is to relieve the suffering and the mental anguish that our people are going through right now.
The Prime Minister, however, detailing what will top the government's agenda for the remainder of the year. He says it will be relieving inflationary pressures that continue to be a burden on the pockets of many Bahamians. Davis says one way of doing that is by lowering import duties, among other things.
We have also negotiated with some of the, and continuing to negotiate with some of the transport ship owners to lower the costs on containers. We've been successful in at least identifying savings for containers coming from the Far East.
Davis's comments echo those of the International Monetary Fund, which said in a recent World Economic Outlook that it expects inflation to remain stubbornly high and predicts no return to normalcy until 2024. In recent months, popular businesses like SuperValu and Lowe's predicted increases in prices. Davis says his government is also looking at addressing inflation's impact on mental health.
More particular, the more and more I sit and hear, we have the there's a mental health issue in our country. It's not manifesting itself as people would think, but it's simmering. That is something we're addressing as well, because we need to have our people feeling good about themselves.
Reporting for Our News, I'm Bethany McDermott.
Well, prices at the pumps still a concern for many Bahamians. Minister of Economic Affairs Michael Halkitis telling media today discussions with petroleum dealers are ongoing and they are very near to a solution to bring some relief.
We are also looking at the whole, pricing sort of program, because we intend as well to sit down with the wholesalers and those who bring in the bulk fuel to see if there's any way, including looking at ways to reduce the shipping costs, because that has really accelerated and it contributes to the landing costs of a lot of goods, including fuel.
Halkitis adds it is difficult to contemplate any sort of margin increase, as that will only serve to increase prices at the pumps.
Thankfully, we've seen prices start to come down globally, and we're seeing that as well here. Going forward, we want to make sure that in terms of getting the product here, the pricing mechanism, and as well being able to, where we can, assist those retail operators, that would result in a better control of the price.
In other news, a 27-year-old Fleming Street man and a 22-year-old man from Rupert Dean Lane are being questioned by police in connection with the deadly shooting of 4-year-old Kenton Seymour Jr. According to police reports, the child was with his parents when they saw two gunmen firing shots at another man while running past their vehicle. Seymour was shot and taken to hospital, where he succumbed to his injuries. Police say the 27-year-old male, who was the intended target, was arrested shortly after the shooting on Tuesday, while the 22-year-old was arrested on Wednesday. And 4 men and 1 woman arrested for the possession of dangerous drugs worth $1,500 with intent to supply following Operation Evening Strike by police on Grand Bahama. According to reports, in the first incident on Wednesday, July 27th, shortly after 9 p.m., a team of officers executed a search warrant on a home at George Mack Way, Mactown. When the officers arrived, a man who was sitting at the entrance of the home fled on foot into nearby bushes. Another man who identified himself as the owner was shown the warrant. Police say they found a quantity of suspected marijuana in a bedroom drawer. Additionally, K9 Barco searched a derelict building nearby on the same premises where a brown box of suspected marijuana was found. 2 men were arrested and taken into police custody. Meanwhile, in the second incident on the same day, shortly before 10 p.m., a team of officers followed a tip to a residence situated on Williams Way. A search of the kitchen turned up a clear plastic bag with suspected marijuana. As a result, 2 men and 1 woman were taken into police custody. And a man and a woman were charged today with armed robbery in connection with the holdup of a shopkeeper. 24-year-old Mark Roll Jr. and 23-year-old Daniela Knowles are charged with the July 22nd armed robbery of Vashti Glinton. They're also charged with conspiracy to commit armed robbery, according to prosecutors. Glinton was accosted by gunmen around 6:20 a.m. when she went to open the Coral Harbor food store. The robbers took $700 before they forced her into her 2007 Ford F-150 truck and drove her to the well fields. There, prosecutors say they made her sign a company check for $3,000 before they tied her up and drove off in her truck. Police arrested Knowles later that day when she tried to cash that stolen check. Knowles is charged with receiving stolen property. She also faces charges of possession of a forged document, uttering a forged document, and attempted fraud by false pretenses in relation to her attempt to cash that check. Roll and Knowles were not required to enter pleas to the charges when they appeared before Magistrate Samuel McKinney. They were denied bail and will return to court on October 4th to receive a voluntary bill of indictment that will send their case to the Supreme Court for trial. Former Prime Minister Hubert Ingraham on the defense tonight over his administration's track record. More from the former leader coming up in 5 minutes, but for now, mostly sunny and breezy conditions ahead. Our meteorologist Greg Thompson is in the Weather Center with the latest.
Thanks, Christine, and a happy Thursday evening, everybody. A warm evening outside our studios right now. Temperatures in the low 80s, 82 degrees under partly cloudy skies. Are still a bit breezy out there. East-northeast winds at 30 miles per hour. It's taking a little off that heat. And yep, feels like temperature very comfortable, 87 degrees. Quiet around the islands today. That ridge of high pressure is in firm control, generating some breezy conditions across the entire chain of islands, and that Saharan dust. It's waning now, but it's still out there, so we have some hazy skies today, and we will continue to see the hazy conditions tonight. But that high and that Saharan dust will keep things dry, so we're not looking for any showers tonight through tomorrow. That's your first look at weather. Your extended forecast is still to come.
Still to come on our news, on the defense, the country's former leader says his administration stands the test of time. Plus, the pediatric vaccine rollout begins. And stay tuned to meet the Bahamian photographer being featured on Discovery Channel's Shark Week. That's coming up when our news returns. Former Prime Minister Hubert Ingraham defending his record as the nation's leader, saying his administration will stand the test of time. It was his response to Prime Minister Philip Davis, who took a swipe at the Ingraham administration while speaking at a National Development Plan lecture earlier this month. Bethany McDermott reports.
Former Prime Minister Hubert Ingraham hitting back at the current Prime Minister's comments. In his address during a National Development Plan lecture at the University of the Bahamas, PM Davis suggested the Ingraham era had been harmful to national development, adding that he struggled to see a positive impact. Well, today, Ingraham fired back.
My administration will stand the test of time. I'm unbothered by anybody who seeks to put any hole in what I did. I am very proud of my accomplishments, and I dare any and all to match or exceed it.
Ingram served as Prime Minister for 3 non-consecutive terms, which equates to 15 years. During his address at the University of the Bahamas, Davis was very complimentary of the Pinling years, but Davis suggested there was an economic slowdown during the Ingram era when compared to the Pinling years.
Facts would not support that statement.
In addition to responding to the PM, Ingram also addressing immigration concerns after a vessel capsized in waters off New Providence on Sunday. The former North Abaco Member of Parliament noting that it was his government that constructed the detention center.
One of the differences between my administration and previous administration was that we created a detention center. Before our time, they would have been housed in Fox Hill Prison as prisoners. When we came to office in 1992, hundreds of illegal immigrants were housed at Fox Hill Prison. We thought that was wrong, and we created a detention center.
Reporting for Our News, I'm Anthony McDermott.
Meanwhile, former Prime Minister Perry Christie says he believes the Davis administration will reveal information about settlements and what he deems political prosecutions as part of a larger strategy. His comments come as the government has remained tight-lipped on the settlement awarded to Police Commissioner Clayton Fernander and others.
I have no doubt that this is a matter that will cause no concern to the government, and that in fact in the fullness of time they will be able to explain their position, and that's how it should be.
Free National Movement leader Michael Pintard has criticized the Davis administration for what he terms their lack of transparency on the matter. Christie adds while the public has the right to the information, he believes government made the decision because other pending matters could be influenced if the information is released.
The government, I guess, being aware that there are other pending matters of that kind, would have made the judgment that at this stage they did not want to influence any other development along similar lines of people who have been harmed and who have a legitimate claim for damages. And so governments make such decisions, and in this case, doubtlessly that is what influenced them.
Shifting gears now, the first doses of the pediatric COVID-19 vaccine rolling out today at the mall at Marathon. Prime Minister Philip Davis on hand for the rollout at the mall this afternoon.
Today is quite encouraged by the number of persons who booked, young people, parents who booked their children to be vaccinated, and we're looking forward to being able to have as many of our children vaccinated as possible.
Minister of Health and Wellness Dr. Michael Darville confirming to our news that 25 vaccines were administered earlier this afternoon. The doses for children ages 5 to 11 years old arrived in the country over the weekend. Dr. Darville also appealing to parents to play their role in the fight against COVID and shares how they can get their kids vaccinated.
It's now available, and we encourage all family members who are willing to have their children vaccinated for COVID-19 to do so. We have a digital platform where you can book online. We're accepting walk-ins, and we're rolling out the vaccine here at the mall of Marathon, and very shortly the vaccines will be available in our clinics. Our pediatricians are on board, and so we are working with the medical community to ensure that as many of our children who are willing to be vaccinated receive the first and second dose.
Well, more vaccinations can lead to the lifting of the mask mandate. That's according to the Prime Minister, who says if 20,000 more people are vaccinated, the mandate would be lifted. The PM also saying the science shows those who are vaccinated are protected enough to go maskless.
I hope to do so next week. If you could assist us by getting another 20,000 persons vaccinated by next week, we'd like to have it up by next week. Yes, we know that you're tired wearing the mask, but if you get more of your friends vaccinated, your family members get vaccinated, and once you reach a certain percentage of our population being vaccinated, there's a scientific methodology to say that it is safe now to be maskless.
When our news comes back from the break, the Central and South Abaco MP talks recovery efforts weeks ahead of the anniversary of Monster Storm Dorian. Plus, former parliamentarian Vernon Simonette is remembered. And later, it's Shark Week, so meet the Bahamian being featured in the widely watched Discovery Channel series. The details when our news returns. This is our news. Welcome back. Many Abaco residents still live in domes just 1 month shy of the 3rd anniversary of Hurricane Dorian. South and Central Abaco MP John Pinder explains residents are still in recovery mode. Jamila Missick reports.
It was September 1st, 2019 when Hurricane Dorian destroyed much of mainland Abaco and the surrounding Keys, forcing many to relocate and rebuild their lives. Nearly 3 years after the storm, some residents are still living in domes. Central and South Abaco MP John Pinder says they are working to assist residents in those makeshift homes.
They've turned into a undesirable place to live with mold and lack of electricity and sewage problems and so on and so forth. So there's the different entities in the government that are having meetings with each of the residents right now to see where we could help facilitate a move into a more safer environment for them and their children.
Last month, Disaster Reconstruction Authority Executive Chairman Alex Storr insisted people living in temporary domes in Spring City, Abaco will vacate by the end of summer. Minister of Transport and Housing Jobeth Kobe Davis has also indicated the government will soon give notice to those residents. In the meantime, Pinder says Abaco is making a comeback.
The scars of Dorian are still present but are slowly being healed. The Keys, Hopetown, Guana Key, Green Turtle Key, Manawar, have come back with a vengeance.
As it relates to hurricane preparations on the island, the Central and South Abaco MP says it's a matter of ensuring residents are prepared.
We're not ready. I'll tell you point blank, we're not ready, and we're hoping that we can get past with one more season. But in doing so, I and my colleague are going out and making sure that Abaconians are prepping themselves, and we have a safety plan and a plan of action should there be a storm coming our way directly.
Reporting for our news, I'm Jamila Missick.
In other news, politicians past and present gathering at the House of Assembly Thursday morning to pay respects to former parliamentarian, cabinet minister and House Speaker Vernon Simonette. Simonette was first elected to Parliament as the Inagua MP in 1982. He served as MP for Inagua and Mayaguana and House Speaker in 1992. Former Prime Ministers Dr. Hubert Minnis and Hubert Ingram remembering him as an outstanding man.
He had no enemies. He had no guile. He had goodwill in his heart for all. He was a decent, affable personality.
As you know, Vernon has represented Inagua, Micah, for a long time. He's made great contribution to farmers. He's a very hopeful individual, very optimistic, exuberant, and most of all, enthusiastic.
Meanwhile, former Prime Minister Perry Christie says he was someone who wanted to elevate himself above the strife of political division. He also says he had a great passion for national politics and healing.
Every now and then you meet a man or a woman, but in this case a man, who by any standard and any definition is an exemplar in his community and in his country. Vernon Simonette never allowed politics to define who he was.
When our news comes back from the break, meteorologist Greg Thompson is back in the Weather Center with your extended weather forecast. And later, we'll introduce you to the Bahamian photographer who appears on Discovery Channel's Shark Week. Stay with us. Welcome back to our news. Winds pick up a little as we get ready to head into the long holiday weekend. Greg is back in the Weather Center with a look ahead.
Thanks again, Christine, and welcome back, everybody, for our second look at weather. Hot and hazy conditions across the islands, courtesy of a dry air mass that's been invading us, and that ridge of high pressure at the surface still dominating our weather. Some Saharan dust is still out there, waning a bit, but we expect another batch to get near sometime. We'll show that a little later. But an upper-level disturbance that's spinning just near the southeast Bahamas could lend some support to a couple isolated showers. They would be quick in passing, and not really any significant rainfall is expected. But as that dry air mass and that high pressure continues to dominate, we expect that to continue through the rest of the week and into the weekend before we do see an uptick in some isolated showers as a little bit more moisture gets in here, and then a return of the Saharan dust. Once again on our satellite, quiet across our area, not much in terms of any clouds. The Gulf of Mexico, quiet. We have a couple of tropical waves moving across the tropical belt, but because of that Saharan dust in place, everything is quiet, and the tropics will remain quiet for the next 5 days. Boating forecast for all areas tonight through tomorrow, that caution flag remains in place. Winds will be easterly at 15 to 20 knots. They will be gusting at times. Your seas 4 to 7 feet, so it's a little choppy out there. High tide will be at 8:48 tonight. Here's a look now at your national forecast. In your 7-day forecast, no change in the weather. Friday, some spotty showers possible, but high pressure will remain in charge. Some Saharan dust expected back in the forecast. Temperatures will get very toasty and the breeze will continue. That's a look at our weather. Make it a safe night, everybody.
Shark Week returns to the Discovery Channel, taking a huge bite out of the Bahamas. This year, Bahamian underwater photographer and cinematographer Andre Musgrove will host 2 shows. He speaks with our Joshua Williams about the experience.
New Providence native Andre Musgrove has gained an international reputation as a modern-day shark whisperer and content creator, thanks to his passion for shooting underwater scenes.
So I got introduced into the ocean through spearfishing, growing up here in Nassau, going spearfishing with my dad on the weekends. And for me, picking up a camera to be able to show my friends or my mom who didn't come out diving what we were doing, that's kind of like how I got into it.
His work continues to catch the attention of the Discovery Channel, and Musgrove will once again be featured during Shark Week, which features shark-based programming from documentaries to travel shows.
So my experience working with Discovery Channel and Shark Week has been pretty cool. Working here in the Bahamas also was amazing. We did a Shark Week series here, which was the first one ever. We shot it 2 months in Bimini. A year before, I was working with Adam Devine from the Workaholic Show here in Nassau, and it was pretty cool, really cool to work with them.
Andre says this opportunity not only improves his brand, but gives him a chance to represent his country and inspire others.
So for me to be able to participate in a show like Shark Week on a global scale and be able to have that experience, for me, it's more of a representation where I'd be able to actually hopefully inspire younger people who grow up watching Shark Week just like I was before, seeing somebody that looks like them, maybe talks like them, whether they be young Bahamians or just black people around the world, and also people interested in the ocean or just interested in whatever your passion is to do. That's the main thing for me working on this show.
You can catch Andre on Shark Week tonight. Reporting for our news, I'm Joshua Williams.
Thanks, Joshua, and thank you for joining us for our news tonight. On behalf of the entire team, I'm Christina Dragovich. A brand new episode of On the Record starts right now.